Well,
Never know.
You never know.
it's fate. It's the universe.
Anyway, moving on.
I think so. You'd like to think so.
We were told by people who were close to Nicole that they felt that he had moved on with another woman. They weren't sure exactly who it was.
As insiders close to the former couple claimed that Keith left Nicole for another woman.
Look, let's talk about Keith Urban. He shared a very honest insight into his life in a pre-recorded interview that took place
Days before the split was announced, where he changed the lyrics to a song he had written for Nicole.
That interview that was filmed before we knew anything about their split, that he was unhappy for some time.
Keith Urban has finally broken his silence, and what he said about the divorce is absolutely heartbreaking. After months of quiet distance, his message gives fans a raw glimpse into what really happened behind the scenes of his 19-year marriage to Nicole Kidman. Stick around for the full timeline, from the fairy tale beginning to the quiet ending, and the words that changed everything.
We were told Nicole really still wanted to try and make the marriage work. Well, not too long after that, we learned that
For nearly 2 decades, they were Hollywood's golden couple, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban, the picture of glamour and devotion. But behind the red carpet smiles, things were quietly unraveling, and by the mid-2020s, the cracks were impossible to ignore. By 2024, the fairy tale was fading fast. Nicole was buried in back-to-back film projects across Europe.
Maybe she's going to be pulling back on her commitments because the schedule she works is absolutely punishing. But at this
While Keith was on the road performing solo, the once inseparable pair were suddenly living in separate worlds. Literally. Red carpet appearances that used to radiate warmth and unity became rare, and when they did happen, fans couldn't ignore how different things felt. The smiles looked practiced.
But that body language was extreme. I mean, he recoiled when they brought her up, and he could have faked it.
Keith and Nicole, that intimacy that we would see whenever they were on the red carpet, or, you know, their wedding anniversary posts, they're always great.
What came next confirmed everyone's suspicions. Nicole appeared at premieres alone, her ring sometimes missing. Keith was photographed in Nashville, not in their shared home. Their social media went silent on anniversaries. The couple that once couldn't stop talking about each other now seemed to be avoiding the subject entirely.
He was out there without his wedding ring, which is the first time we've seen him without a wedding ring. And he did show a video where he had Nicole in there.
Photographed together in June at the FIFA World Cup in Nashville, Tennessee, and there were reports that they've been living apart for months now.
And then came the words that truly shocked everyone. During an interview, when asked about her personal life, she softly said, "You think you know where your life is going, and then it isn't. It wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't polished." It sounded like a woman admitting defeat. The heartbreak was subtle, but it was there, raw and unfiltered.
Look, they haven't said anything at this stage, but, you know, I don't know, something has gone really wrong.
But listen to this. Keith's reaction made it even clearer that something was breaking. When interviewers turned to Keith, his answers were curt, almost cold. When asked if fate brought them together, he muttered, "No idea."
Life story wouldn't have happened.
No, I think it would.
Yeah? Are you a believer in fate, or do you think it's 2 Australians it would have happened?
No idea.
When pressed on how they kept their marriage strong, he simply said, "It's a job." The romantic country star who once called Nicole his savior now spoke about love like it was an obligation. And it gets worse, because what was once their biggest strength became their silent downfall. For years, their bond had survived a distance. Her film sets, his tours, the constant travel. But in 2024, that balance broke. Sources close to the couple described parallel lives.
There's a lot of commentary on what's gone wrong here. Has Nicole been doing these raunchy parts? Have they spent too little time together?
Saying they barely crossed paths for months. Even their few public reunions felt staged, like 2 professionals fulfilling a duty rather than 2 lovers sharing a life. Still, the most heartbreaking part wasn't what was said, it was what wasn't. Neither publicly announced a split for months. No statements, no confirmations, just silence. And maybe that was the saddest part. No scandal, no betrayal, just a love that slowly ran out of road.
It's sad because I think they're one of those Hollywood relationships that you say, okay, that's real. It's not for publicity or...
It doesn't say to me that Nicole was top of mind for him, that his family is what he missed most at that point.
The world was stunned when Nicole Kidman's recent interview with Harper's Bazaar came just days after reports of her filing for divorce. But instead of scandal, Nicole gave us something different: quiet strength.
Nicole Kidman has returned to the spotlight for the first time since separating from Keith Urban. while presenting an award.
Nicole Kidman has made her first public appearance since her split from Keith Urban, attending a charity auction in Dallas, Texas.
In the interview, Nicole reflects on aging, resilience, and how experience shapes the way she faces pain. Her words don't scream heartbreak. They whisper survival. She speaks of weathering life's storms with a calm strength.
No, she walked the red carpet. She was not afraid. She took photos, and it was a really beautiful speech. She really used.
We are all more alike than we are different, and that we're better when we look out for each other.
One quote in particular says it all. There's something to knowing that no matter how painful, there is a way through, she says. No drama, no bitterness, just quiet acceptance.
When you have a job that's in front of a camera, going through personal things can be really hard. This is like, I was engaged in the...
Too emotional to mask it. And that mood shift was, wow, that was in your face as soon as her name was mentioned.
But to truly understand the significance of all of this, we must go back to before the silence, before the headlines, a love story that felt almost too good to be real. In 2005, Nicole, freshly divorced and already a celebrated Oscar-winning actress, Keith, a rising country music star. When their paths crossed, something clicked instantly. The chemistry was undeniable. Their romance moved fast, but it never felt forced. And less than a year later, their fairy tale turned into a wedding. By June 2006, Nicole and Keith stood hand in hand in Sydney for a ceremony that was intimate, emotional, and nothing like a typical Hollywood spectacle. There were no flashing lights, no extravagant stunts, just two people deeply in love. But not everything would stay picture perfect forever. Only 4 months after their wedding, the shine was shattered. Keith had quietly fallen into a dangerous substance abuse spiral, a battle that blindsided Nicole. She could have walked away. No one would have blamed her, but instead, she made a choice that defined the early years of their marriage. She stayed. But this wasn't about saving face. This was about saving him. Nicole staged a private intervention, confronting the reality neither of them could ignore. She simply pushed for one thing, for Keith to get help. And he did. Keith agreed to enter rehab, marking the beginning of one of the most difficult seasons of their relationship. And from that moment, everything changed. For months, they lived apart while Keith underwent treatment. Nicole's only wish wasn't for him to be a flawless star or the perfect husband. She just wanted him to be healthy, to survive. And what came out of that darkness was something unexpected. Keith later described rehab as both the hardest and best thing that ever happened to him. That battle, raw, personal, and far from the spotlight, forged a bond between them that was deeper than before. From 2008 onward, everything changed. The birth of their daughters, Sunday Rose in 2008 and Faith Margaret in 2010, became the heartbeat of their world. Yet this wasn't just a new chapter, it was a complete rewrite. They built a quieter life in Nashville, far from the Hollywood noise. Privacy, parenting, and being present became their top priorities. No more endless flashing cameras, no more living for the public eye. Their home wasn't a stage anymore, it was a sanctuary. And the world noticed the difference. That year, Nicole's world was shattered when her father passed away unexpectedly. It wasn't a headline moment, it was a heartbreak. Keith dropped everything, the tours, the schedules, the spotlight, and flew to Sydney without hesitation. At the funeral, he stood beside her not as a country music star, but as a husband who refused to let her face the pain alone. For the world, it was a glimpse of a couple bound by more than fame. For Nicole, it was proof of a love that showed up when it mattered most. But even the most unshakable bonds can be tested by time, because not every love story ends with fireworks. Some end in whispers. And for Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban, the finale wasn't a scandal, it was silence. Eventually, there was no big announcement, no messy headlines, no explosive interviews, just quiet distance. No declarations were needed, the silence said it all. And then came the words that made everything clear. When asked about their future, Keith simply said, "Life's in session. No denial, no fight, just acceptance." And Nicole's last public words about him months earlier, "He's my deep, deep love," suddenly sounded less like devotion and more like a gentle goodbye. In the end, fame wasn't the enemy, distance was. But even as their marriage faded, their family remained. Both Nicole and Keith have chosen grace over bitterness. She's been seen moving forward calmly with their daughters, focused on the life they built together, not the one that fell apart. Keith, too, has remained respectful, keeping the focus on co-parenting and privacy. No public battles, no mudslinging, just quiet respect. And for fans, that silence speaks louder than any statement ever could.
This is really, really good role modeling for their kids. He's out on tour, she's out living her life, she's on the red carpet, she does what...
That is now 8 upcoming projects, TV shows and movies that Nicole is signed on to do.
But now, I want to hear from you. Do you think this was simply the natural end of a long love story? Or do you believe something deeper was at play behind the scenes? Did they drift apart, or did they grow apart? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.